for each of you. And let's see if we can tailor our answers to a few minutes. And, I hate to cut off either one of you because it's fascinating. Lucienne, first of all, a short question. The Project Ka-Eo that sits on the desk in front of you was finished about a week and a half ago after years, I guess, of preparation. Double question, is there also copy or copies on the back that people can refer to while they're here this evening? And is it also posted on the website?
Yes, it is posted on a blog site, and there's a note back on the table there that gives the URL. For folks that don't have any access to the web, we made 4 or 5 CDs that you can just take home, and it just opens. It's a PDF. This is a draft, and actually I've been working for the last 2 weeks to go through, correct all the inconsistencies and everything like that. The new version will be posted probably tomorrow or the next day on the website. It's Project Ka-Eo at blogspot.com, I think it is. It's on the little sign back there. So this will be available to everybody. The printed copies, the final printed copies, will probably be available in about 2 weeks. It's going to go to the printer later this week. We're going to do 150. This was sponsored by a grant from OHA, and these 150 copies are going to tend to go to educational institutions, libraries, places where lots of people will get use, schools where people will get use from them. But it's going to be widely available on a CD and online. And who knows? Eventually, we might be able to do like a abbreviated version that everybody could just have as like a more affordable booklet. But right now, there is an executive summary that isn't in this version. It's 5 pages, and you could read the 5 pages and kind of know what the report says.
Well, thank you for compiling this very valuable history of the Makena area. Along with our archaeologist Teresa Dunham, whom you work side by side with, and I'm sure that a lot of what you were responsible for was interviewing people like the gentleman to your left who just know a heck of a lot about the way things were, but unless this is recorded and shared, it would be lost, so thanks again. And can you tell me what do we now know, having gone through all this research, what do we know about Makena's history from its archaeological and cultural remains? And is there more yet to be discovered?
Well, Uncle Boogie's absolutely right. Thousands of people had to have lived here because just the remains that we have, and we know that the remains have been changed by time. There have been big storms, there have been all kinds of cataclysmic events that have happened in the last 1,000 years. Because the history of this area, what we've dated thus far, goes back at least 1,000 years. We know that this area was very flourishing around Pu'u'olai and around where Keavalite Church is, between like about 1200 and 1700. And it's very likely that Makena was connected to the Pi'ilani dynasty after the 1500s when they were established. And this is something that was hinted at by Inez Ashdown in her early writings. People just said, she makes this stuff up, she doesn't give any sources. But Teresa Dunham in her research on Keavalite Church realized that the artifacts there showed that someone of a chiefly status was occupying that area somewhere in the 16 and 1700s. And then when you go back in history, you realize that Pi'ilani's son, Kama Lalavalu, who was the famous chief of Maui, he, during his reign, acquired sovereignty over Koho'olawe, and he ruled from Hana. Now, no one in their right mind, if they lived in Hana, would be sending their administrators out from Hana to take care of Koho'olawe, because there's a lot of rough currents between those two places. You'd set up the center right across the bay, in a nice peaceful little place like where Keavalite Church is located, and you'd have your administration center there. And Koho'olawe was a very valuable place to past generations of Hawaiians. Just like Makena, it's kind of overlooked for many years. People thought, nothing happened. There's no big war heiaus. There's no big agricultural loi. But When we started digging, we realized there's thousands of cultural sites, there's deep legends that connect to this place, and Koho'olawe and Makena are very, very bound together, very connected. The people of Hono'ula, who lived in the shoreline of Makena and Kanahena and Keoneo'io, this was their fishing grounds, and this was a place where young people came to learn about navigating by the stars, and this was a place where people went for very sacred purposes. So my theory is that these places have been overlooked by history in the, kind of wholesale sense, because they were places of peace and places of spiritual renewal rather than places of war. And the history was written by the war chiefs. It wasn't written by the ministers and those who sought peace and sought healing. Their history is yet to be told. And their history is underneath the surface in Makena, and there is so much more to be discovered. But we know the area around Keavalai Church is very, very special. Interviews done by Kepa Mali, who I am deeply indebted to, who interviewed 10 kupuna of the area in depth, and he speaks Hawaiian, so he could really draw upon his knowledge. He translated new documents that had never been translated, and we realized from the combination of the interviews with local residents and his archival research that there's more stories that haven't been told. We quote at the beginning of our report a chant. This chant is from the 13th century, 1200s, and it refers to Makena and Honua'ula as the place where the winds die down. In other words, they have the favorable anchorages where you can easily pull in and not be buffeted, and they are a place made that were famous to the ancient chiefs. Now, if you're talking about ancient chiefs in 1200, people have been using these lands for a while, and we need to keep digging. So that's my watchword. Let's keep digging. Teresa Donham found tons of stuff, and at Keavalai Church, none of it was visible. It was all underground. And as Uncle Boogie said, the archaeologist that just looks at the surface and says, no more nothing, there's no significance. I don't need to talk to anybody. I don't need to interview one local resident. I don't need to find out anything from anyone who lived here. I can just decide that this is not significant. Well, that's the past. And I really don't think the new landowners want to do that. I don't think anyone in the community wants that. And I think, we need to just move forward into looking at our cultural landscapes as a continuum of history. What Teresa suggested is probably only the last 150 years of history are going to be on the surface in many places. The 600, 800 years before that is underground, and it's there waiting for us.
Thank you. Uncle Boogie,